Hello, Saber people. I just came home from Halliwax's, and we finished up this Crossguard. So this is Randy Johnson's, or Korbanth's, Crossguard 2.0. And late last year, I was talking to Halliwax about how basically the only other lightsaber that I really wanted to add to my collection was a nice Crossguard. Because, I mean, there really wasn't anything available. There were some 3D printed ones, of course. You had the kind of cheapo Hasbro Force FX ones, which I do own. I actually have it work with me because my kids think it's awesome. But I wanted one. I wanted like a nicely detailed, pretty accurate one. And I had missed out on the Phoenix Prop CNC'd replica, so I didn't know what was available. And Halliwax said to me, "Oh, well, go check out this one from Korbanth. It's looking really good. It's looking accurate." So I saw it, and I decided to pull the trigger. So waited some time. Obviously, I ordered it last year, as I'd said, so it wasn't shipping yet. But during that time, Korbanth also began adding the option of having the Quylons painted. So I was able to add that because I really was not looking forward to having to deal with that. So I got it in, and overall I was pretty happy with it. The size was close to the one by Phoenix Props. It's a tiny bit smaller, but it's not that noticeable. The only things I didn't love about it were that it has some seams along here, along the edge, because it has the removable doors, so that way you can view the crystal reveal, which I don't really care about, and also the inserts. So the insert up here and down below. So I wanted those replaced, and at the time also the posts that held in the red wire. Those were like little top hats, so I wanted those replaced too. So Halliwax suggested to me looking on Shapeways, and I could probably find the accurate posts for the red wire. So sure enough, I did. And the same maker had available the pretty accurate inserts for the hilts. They're 3D printed, they're not metal, but I'm like, you know what, let's see if we can make this work. So I received the parts in, and they didn't fit at all, which I kind of expected. I didn't think that they were going to just pop right in and I was going to be able to call it good. So I hatched a scheme. The way the Korbanth hilt works is this section here can separate from this, sort of like the original emitter, when you remove the set screws on either side, and both parts kind of slip off. And in the stock one, it reveals this tray that holds basically Randy's generic Greebly pieces. So you see these pieces in, obviously, this saber. You also see them in his Halliwax 3.0 reveal, which I think is a really cool saber, and if I didn't already have my vintage Halliwax, I'd probably have one of those too, just because I like the reveal feature. So the kind of cockamamie scheme that I had, well, I can't talk tonight. The cockamamie scheme that I had contrived was that we would remove that entire tray section and replace it with the 3D printed part. I told Halliwax about this, and he basically thought I was crazy. But I said to him, you know what? This wasn't an expensive lightsaber to begin with. I think the base price is like $250 plus another $35 for the painting and weathering. So I said to him, whatever happens, it's fine. We will make it work. I'd also like to point out that I was able to get in on KR Sabers accuracy kit run. So that included aluminum blade plugs, an accurate red wire, accurate posts for the red wire, the correct belt clip, It came with a blue wire too, which wasn't originally listed. It also came with heat sinks. I think that's everything that was included, but it went a long way in making this hilt look pretty darn screen accurate. So I've been kind of sitting on this project for a while. I've had other things I was more concerned about finishing up. My V2, my vintage Graflex ESB. This has just been sort of sitting on the back burner. But finally, we had some free time, and I brought the parts over to Halliwax, and I just said, just go for it. Just cut it up. We'll make it work. So he put it on his, I'm blanking on the name of it. Well, we had it in his shop, and he just started cutting. And it was a little nerve-wracking at first, but we made it work. So the parts in here, those are 3D printed, and he suggested putting behind the vent here, because the vents are open, some wire mesh. So there's wire mesh behind there. And actually it's really cool too, because the Korbanth hilt has like a metal tube that runs through it that's chromed. So when the light hits it, you can see the chrome through the mesh and through the vents. So it just really sort of makes that little section pop. And then down here, oops, we have, again, more 3D printed parts that do a pretty good job of replicating the screen-used hilt. And again, it's closer than the sort of generic parts that came with. And I'm sure most people aren't bothered by that. Even Halliwax, when he first looked at the lightsabers, like, they don't bother me. But my thing is, I really like accurate props. If I'm gonna have a relatively expensive saber, I want it to be as accurate as I can possibly get it. So to that point, there are still a couple things that I want to do to this. I'm at like 90% done. I do want to fill in those seams. I also have to add a few screws to the back. But so we're going to take a closer look and kind of see what was done. It came powder coated, which was really nice. I had no real complaints about the powder coating. It was a very even coat of paint, or a powder coat. It was not like really a dark black, but a really sort of almost dark gunmetal gray. And it had a nice look to it. It was very even. So Halliwax started doing some work on it. And he added some copper and some other paint detail, and then today I decided to just take it further. I started looking at some images of what I think was the prop shop replica, and noticed that there was a lot of copper on it. Around the submitter section here, also on the back on the button, along with a lot of scuffing and just wear and tear that we hadn't really captured yet. So I added that, and then on kind of a whim, I wanted to see if I could kind of play around with the finish of the saber. So as I'd said, the basic finish of it was a really nice, even dark gray powder coating. But if you looked at the screen-used prop, it actually had some sections where the black on it looked almost greasy. It was like, somebody had thrown black motor oil all on it, and it just looked disgusting. So as I was painting it today, I ended up including some black enamel, and I literally just threw it on there, kind of dabbled it on there, and then used a paper towel to dab it and remove the extra. And the result is what I think a very nice finish that has that sort of modulating black finish found on the actual prop. So I'm super happy with the way that it turned out. With the 3D printed parts, Halliwax had painted them using a very heavily layered painting technique, and they looked lovely and metallic. But then when they were actually inside the hilt, they weren't they didn't pop enough compared to the rest of the saber. So I started kind of hitting some highlights with silver enamel paint, and I think it just gave it the extra depth that it needed, and it really just makes those sections sing. And you can see too that I have KR Sabers accuracy set on there. Oh, I'm sorry too. That also included the accurate activation button. That was another part that came with KR Sabers set. So another thing that we did was, like I said earlier on, I was not sold on the crystal reveal. It's just not my thing. I'm not into FXing sabers. I'm more interested in having them appear as they did on screen. So the magnets that held the doors on were a little loose, especially the exterior one. The interior, almost grenade section doors, actually held on really well, but the exterior hilt door just kind of flopped around a little bit, and I didn't want to be dealing with that. So we ended up E6000 that in place. But the result is what I think a pretty awesome looking, relatively accurate Crossguard saber, and I'm thrilled with it. It turned out better than I would have expected, given basically how harebrained my ideas for fixing these was. Oh, another interesting thing that we did. So like I said, this has the 3D printed section down here at the bottom. So that was basically an inch-long tube that had a ceiling around it that maybe added another 1/4 inch to it. So we actually had to sand that down to make it fit inside. But then the problem arose that there wasn't anything there to support, and it was just sort of floating around and flopping. So maybe 2 weeks ago, I was at Halliwax's. I was in a shop, and I said to him, well, how about we take the original insert piece, sand it down, and then use that as like a supporting column? And he's like, that's a good idea. Let's give it a shot. So it ended up working out really well. It was, again, it was just one of those really dumb ideas, but it worked. And I was able to fix it today in about the most unstable method possible, but it works. And then if need be, I'm able to rotate it. That was a major element to me, where I wanted to be able to rotate it if, you know, something ever happened, if it got knocked out of place. I didn't want it to be glued in place. So it is not glued. It's pressure fit onto that original greebly column. So if anything were ever to happen to it, I'd be able to put it right back where it belongs. So that's it. That is my Crossguard 2.0 as it stands. Again, still a couple little things left to do with it, but this is by and large a finished saber. One more for the collection. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you to Korbanth for producing this awesome lightsaber. Thank you to Cal at KR Sabers for his awesome accuracy set. And also thank you to the maker on Shapeways. I'm sorry I don't know your name, and I wouldn't probably be able to find the stuff again if I looked for it. But you are the unsung hero of this build. So, and of course, thank you to Halliwax for listening first to my batshit crazy ideas, but also for making them work. So yeah, thanks for watching.